An organization claiming to represent Afrikaners has thrown a spanner into the works for black supremacist and revisionist historians throughout South Africa. Afrikaner separatist group lays claim to KwaZulu-Natal, cites colonial dispossession Boervolk, invoking UN decolonization resolution to claim millions of hectares across eastern South Africa. Oh my, what a twist. Julius Malema is running around screaming that we will take our land back, but now a more historically accurate claim is being pushed by white South Africans. The Afrikaner separatist group Oranje Vrystaat Boervolk has laid claim to large parts of South Africa, including KwaZulu-Natal, claiming their land was dispossessed by Britain in the 1840s, in a matter exposing the fault lines of South Africa's colonial past. Indeed, the history of that epoch is tortured, with the Zulu Empire colonizing much of the region, Boers buying land from the Zulu, and the Brits then annexing the territory. The Boervolk is relying on UN Resolution 1514 regarding the abolition of colonialism as a legitimate form of international state structure to claim ownership of about 9 million hectares of land, significantly larger than the entire Ingonyoma Trust. And that resolution from 1960 reads, Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples, dated December 14, 1960. Convinced that all peoples have an inalienable right to complete freedom, the exercise of their sovereignty, and the integrity of their national identity, solemnly proclaims the necessity of bringing to a speedy and unconditional end colonialism in all its forms and manifestations. Now, what an interesting turn of events. Black supremacists in South Africa consistently bemoan the theft of their land, completely ignoring the Bantu colonization of southern Africa and dispossession of the Khoi and San, pretending that all interactions were harmonious and consensual, as if the San would decide to abandon the verdant hills of Zimbabwe for the desolate sands of the Kalahari willingly. Now, likewise, the assertion that KwaZulu-Natal is the domain of the Zulu is historically flawed. It's true, KZN is the birthplace of the Zulu people and the seat of their kingdom. You see, the Zulu existed before Shaka established the kingdom, but only as a small, minor clan without the larger Nguni-speaking people, not as a unified nation. And even that group was only founded around 1709. This small clan consisted of approximately 1,500 to 2,000 people living near the White Mfolozi River, overshadowed by larger neighbors like the Mtetwa. Shaka later took his clan's name and expanded into the kingdom. The Zulu's claim to parts of KZN does not even exist prior to 1818, yet the Zulu king seeks to rename the province recently. Mzulu KwaZulu-Natal, while speaking at the 147th commemoration of the Battle of Isandlwana, questioned why the name Natal is still used. We need to remove this Natal. This is KwaZulu, so I don't understand why we have this Natal. Now, he argued that before colonization, the area had been known as KwaZulu and formed part of the Zulu kingdom, and that the name Natal was later imposed by colonizers, but that's factually incorrect. Of course, KwaZulu means place of the Zulu in isiZulu and refers to the ancestral heartland of the Zulu people. But Natal was named by the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama in the year 1497. He sighted the coast on Christmas Day and named it Terra Natalis, later Natal, which means Christmas or nativity in Portuguese. Now, prior to his arrival, there was no historical record of any formal name by anyone for the region. The Zulu had not arrived in the area until 212 years later, and then only as a minor, tiny clan. Consequently, Natal has a far stronger claim to the name. In the Government Gazette published on Friday last week, the Boer folk say Britain was, and the democratic state of South Africa is, in illegal possession of their land and territory, being KwaZulu-Natal and northern parts of the Eastern Cape. So they claim not only Britain initially, but now also the current government has retained the land that they claim as an Afrikaner folk. Take further notice that Britain did not just colonize the region, but they also expropriated the private farms of the Boer people in the eastern region without compensation, for which restitution of land and title deeds, lost income and amenities, and hardship which we had to endure must now be returned and reimbursed to the burghers of the Boer folk. That's what the Government Gazette reads. Now there's that term, expropriation. Imagine a past where the United Kingdom never fought the Boers for a second time. How would things have turned out today? The current government of the post-1994 administration of South Africa is urged and invited to enter into a dialogue with the acting Volksraad of the Republic of the Orange Free State so that a smooth, seamless, and peaceful secession of governance of the here and above mentioned territories and land to its legitimate and rightful owners, the Boer folk of the Orange Free State, and the Boer folk as a whole can be facilitated. Wow. Malema's going to blow a cap on this one. Well, at least they're calling for dialogue and negotiation. They're not trying to murder people and chase them off the farms. However, their appeals are likely to fall on deaf ears. As I mentioned last month, King Mzulu KwaZulu-Natal called for the renaming of KwaZulu-Natal to simply KwaZulu. Under the Boer folk blueprint, it will use the land to establish the Republic of Natalia, which was established by the Boers in 1839 before being annexed by the British in 1843. Boer folk spokesman Wim Russo told Business Day that the land was bought from Zulu kings Dingaan and Mpande before Britain colonized the territory in 1843. We are the rightful owners of this land and territory, he says. We cannot pay for what has already been paid for. We need to be reimbursed for damages suffered, for Britain did not only colonize land, but the private property of the Boer folk was confiscated by Britain without compensation. Now, what a funny twist this is on expropriation without compensation and our land and their land. Here's the problem. Conquest is a legitimate form of political discourse, warfare. And to the victors go the spoils. The Boer abandoned Natal in large measure when the British annexed it. Do they have a legitimate claim? Well, they have probably a more legitimate claim to it than many others do, but that doesn't mean their claim is legitimate. Meanwhile, the renaming of the province from KwaZulu-Natal to Natal is ludicrous. The land may be the land of the Zulu, but not all of the province is Zulu. And they're 80% of the population, not 100%. 10% are Indians. And about 8% are whites, with a few colors mixed in. And no one named the place. No historical record of it being named before Vasco da Gama arrived in 1497. Zulu didn't even arrive until 1709, in a very small clan. It wasn't until over a century later that Shaka then founded the Zulu kingdom, and that's when their claim can begin. 3 centuries after Vasco da Gama arrived and named it Natal. So, his claim to rename it is bogus. Is the latest claim by a white group of South Africans legitimate as well? Well, at least, if nothing else, it throws a spanner in the works. Let's see what comes of it. Ooh, lots of land claims in South Africa. Wait till the Khoi San get real legal representation and begin to assert their land claims. It should get spicy. What say you, South Africa? South Africa, Mzansi. Cheers.